It's happening.
I'm Maddie Lamont.
And I'm Kaylee Agelzoff. Alright, so I'll start off the debate. I have the humanist position, and so a lot of the things that humanists believe are basically the possibilities of human progress are very crucial to us. Sorry. All persons should have a voice in developing the values and goals that determine their lives. Human societies should evaluate economic systems by whether or not they increase economic well-being for the individuals and groups. We believe in equality of all people all around the world, and we believe that human life has meaning because we create and develop our futures. And we strive for a good life here and now. Some other points that we believe in are that the time is past for a mere revision of traditional attitudes. We don't necessarily believe in religious things because we believe that it needs to be modernized. Religions have always been a means for realizing the highest values in life. While this age does owe a vast debt to traditional religions, we believe that the universe is a self-existing and not created. We also believe that nature has emerged as a result of a continuous process. And we are convinced that time has passed. The time has passed for theism, deism, modernism, and several varieties of new thought. So basically, we believe that people all around need to be united, and we believe that there's a new time for religion, and we need to modernize it so that everyone can agree on one thing. We don't believe in racial groups or anything, rather than, because sometimes we believe that religions can separate people, but we want to be able to unite all people around the world. Another point is we believe that everyone should have accessible travel through everyone, to everyone in all the world, and so there shouldn't be anything to stop traveling and just getting use of the whole everyone's, what is it called, ethnicity. And so it says we must expand communication and transportation across all frontiers. Travel restrictions must cease. The world must be open to diverse political, ideological, and moral viewpoints, and evolve a worldwide system of television and radio for information and education. We thus call for full international cooperation in culture, science, and arts, and technology across ideological borders. We must learn to live openly together, or we shall perish together. Sorry, I'm crying. So, does anyone have any questions on what humanism is? It's basically, we believe that no deity will save us, that we must save ourselves, and there's a new time for modern things. 1 second. Let me take care of this. Do you guys have any questions?
I had a quick question. You said that religion should be united, so there's no conflict. Does that mean that humanists believe there should only be one religion?
We believe that everyone should just be united in their own thoughts and processes, and it's just a new way to basically harmonize all of us, unite all of us. That's a good question. Okay, and so the next person can go up for debate too.
Hey, just a second. Lauren emailed me back. I'm just emailing her. Lauren had a family emergency. She said she has to pack her things and leave right now. So she won't be coming back.
Oh, okay. So do you want to, Maddie, take over the other humanist part?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
That's something.
Deer in the headlight look?
I'll figure something out.
All right. Okay. And if we're all ready, I will start my portion of the introduction. Okay. Along with many other religious people, we affirm that God is the ultimate source of power, and that under him it is the people's inherent right to decide their form of government. Throughout history, man has sought and gone to great lengths for their religious freedoms. People have willingly given their lives in defense of those basic rights many times over. Over 200 years ago, groups of people made the long and dangerous trip to the Americas in search of religious freedom from oppression that they'd faced in their countries. The first Constitution was written in the United States guaranteeing religious freedom as a result of this. While many countries have adopted these principles, the fight for religious freedom continues in some countries today. One example is the people of Mongolia face this battle. One 20-year-old married woman faced unemployment when she began a group that was pro-democracy in her country in hopes of religious rights and freedom. Afterward, she organized a hunger strike which had 20 others joining and lasted for 5 days. This demonstration backed by major democratic movement leaders encouraged other government employees to organize similar democratic councils. These dangerous actions expanded into a national anti-government movement that voiced powerful support for the basic human freedoms of speech, press, and religion. Eventually, the government accepted the demands, and the adoption of a democratic constitution 2 years later, Mongolia took a major step toward a free society. There would be no constitution or freedom for people if it hadn't been for religious rights. Sorry. Something in the background, it totally distracted me. In 1833, when all the people in the world were still ruled by kings and tyrants, few could see how the infant U.S. Constitution could be divinely designed for the rights and protections of all flesh. But today, almost every nation in the world can see how that has profoundly impacted the world. And it's only through the religious rights that are intertwined in our Constitution that we are able to receive the freedoms that we enjoy today. The religious freedoms work toward the help and freedom of all men and all people. Does anybody have any questions about that?
No.
Then I guess if you guys want to start with like year 2, it said, did it say 2 main arguments?
Spokesperson 2 with the main argument.
Oh, states main arguments.
Yes. So.
Not 2 main arguments, but I gave mine. I have 2.
No, it's worded a little weird. Okay, so we got this. Hold on, let me find something. Okay. Let me set a clock so I make sure I don't go over. 1 second. Keypad. So, there has been much done in the name of religions. there have been wars, and many wars in the name of religion. So they end up separating us rather than uniting us together. That is why humanism is what will bring us together. Especially since we can been able to use the scientific method and technology to control our environment, conquer poverty, markedly reduce disease, extend our lifespan, and significantly modify our behavior. We have altered the course of human evolution and cultural development, unlocking vast new powers and providing humankind with unparalleled opportunities for achievement, and all in using the scientific method and technology. There are many dangers in the future, but applying the scientific method will open the doors to overcoming many possible ecological damage, overpopulation, and dehumanizing institutions. We have to be bold and daring in order to survive. We have to fuse reason with compassion and to keep, what am I looking for? To have moral values fused with reason. It allows the creativity of the human being and provide vision and courage for us to work together, and rather than separate us like many religious wars have done. Thinking. Humanism allows for the use is more for modern day, whereas religion has more to do with more traditional back, and they are not. Religion is not allow for new advances in human nature and modern technology. It is not modernized, and even many doomsday and doomsday prophecies that have been made have torn people apart, and I lost the word. Sorry, I'm blanking. And have torn people apart and forced other people to join these cults or religions that make no sense and do not provide back to humanity. They take away from the rights of others, and in order for the whole. It's focusing on the needs of a few rather than the individual. Hold on. And I guess that's basically it. So any questions? Any questions?
I'll save my questions for the question-answer period.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
So, next person.
Okay. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. So our main arguments are that religious freedom is a constitutional right and needs special protection. The free exercise of religion is intrinsically connected to societal freedoms at large. Religious values and political realities are so interlinked that in the origin of this nation that we can't lose the influence of Christianity without jeopardizing the freedoms of the whole. The protection of the family, the fundamental unit of society, is also connected to this constitutional right. And if we do not protect the right to freely exercise our religions, it will affect our country negatively. We insist upon our freedom to preach the doctrines of our faith, both to our children and to those around us who will listen. Second, freedom of speech should not be granted only to those seeking freedom from religion, but is a right extended to all members of the country. We too have the right to express our religious views in public. Both the humanist and religionist viewpoint of the argument deserve respect when speaking out on topics which are important to us, without being met with hostility, persecution, or threats of harm. Those are our main arguments. Those are my main arguments. Unless you wanted to add anything, Jenica.
Nope. You said it very concisely, but that's exactly what I was thinking too. Okay, should we head over to the... Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the debate guidelines. Should we head over, the cross-examination portion?
Yeah.
And I believe that humanists go first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we going to do it... Sorry, I had a quick question. Are we going to do it that just Maddie and I talk, or does everyone have a chance to question and answer questions? How did you guys want to do that?
I think anyone who has questions
or answers
should be able to say. I think maybe like when answering questions, if the one who's leading that part has something, if not, then they can like bump it to the other and ask what they think.
Okay, awesome.
How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, that sounds good. So some of the questions I wrote down was, do you guys believe in science? And if so, why?
Yeah, we do believe in science. We believe that all truth comes from God, and God created science. And anything that is true and is right, we agree with and we look forward to. And we're grateful for many of the scientific interventions that we all use today, the technologies that we have, and the medical technologies. And we all benefit greatly from the science around us, and we're very grateful for that. But we believe that that truth comes from God.
That's good. It says that the humanists believe that science and economic change have disrupted the old beliefs, and so I think they're basically saying that they don't really rely on science, but we just rely on everyone having a clear understanding and all coming together despite science and stuff that's out there in religion. Another question, how can you determine the difference between sacred and secular? Because it says that we believe that this distinction can no longer be maintained.
Between sacred and secular?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I think that sometimes that can be true, that the sacred and the secular, for some people, does get blurred, and they have a hard time realizing where the line of their religion ends and the secular begins, and that's their prerogative. They have that right to their religious freedom. And so if they choose to mix the sacred and the secular in their lives, that's their right. But for many people, sacred and secular do not interchange. We believe that all truth comes from God. We believe that He is our creator and that we have a duty to Him in our daily lives. And when we hear secular points that are not truth, that deviate from His laws and commandments in our lives, those things do not cross over. And so I think it depends on the individual you're talking to. For some, yes, sacred and secular may cross over, and that again is their religious right. But for many people of religious faith, those two things do not cross over. And the distinction is based on God's laws and commandments that He has issued for us. Did you have anything to say on that, Karina? Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I said that's a perfect answer. Wow.
You made me think on that one. I wasn't expecting it.
Some of these are intense. Yeah, because it was just interesting, because as humanists, we believe that this distinction can no longer be maintained. So I'm not sure, like, how they plan about, like, because it seems like it has no foundation, but maybe there is. Everyone can be united.
Hey, can you guys wait 1 second? I have this nasty headache, and I'm going to open a Coke so I can get some caffeine. Do you guys mind just 1 second?
Sure.
Thanks.
That's good.
By all means. When I was reading this, since we're on pause, when I was reading the Humanist Manifesto, it was like really interesting to see how it so closely seemed connected to like the words of Korihor, and how it was like it's an outdated tradition of our fathers that really serves no purpose except for to bind people down. Essentially, it's just going to bind them down, and we need to get rid of it. What we need is everyone to just manage themselves according to their own genius. Like, pretty much identical to what Korihor says. It just, like, is wordier. Fascinating.
I kind of got confused because I'm like, these are so many blurred lines here. It's like, well, morality is relative. So if morality is relative, then how are we actually protecting people? We're not. Okay, sorry, I'm back, guys. Did you guys have any other questions?
I have
Maddie,
a couple
did you have
more.
questions? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Maddie, do you have anything first?
Maybe she said no, but doesn't know she's muted.
Oh, yeah.
There she
Oh.
goes. No,
She doesn't have anything.
Like trying to quickly prepare somewhat of a closing statement as I do.
Okay, I have a couple more questions then. So, how do you determine the existence and value of reality?
Sorry, can you ask that again?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. So, how do you determine the existence and value of reality? So, in other words,
like whether or not something's tangible.
like, basically, do you guys have a greater plan of reality? Like, do you guys think that there's a purpose, and how do you determine the existence and value of reality?
I think that depends, again, on the individual and their religious beliefs. Every religion has a bit of a different belief in reality. For example, a Buddhist person believes that they'll be reincarnated, and whereas a Catholic person believes that they came to Earth, and after that, there's hell or purgatory or heaven. A Mormon believes that there was life before they came to Earth, and after that they came to Earth for a purpose based on how they lived before they came to Earth, and that based on what they do on Earth will help them to become who they want to be after their lives. So reality depends on the religious view of who you're talking to, I suppose, if you're asking religious people in general. But I think religious people in general base their realities on God and on what God would want from them and where they want God would want them to go, and based on God's commandments.
That's perfect. Because it says on our side, the dynamic force for today must be shaped by the needs of the age. And so we kind of just go with whatever is modern right then and whatever makes it so that everything's dynamic and falls into place. Another question that I have, or do you guys want to say a couple of your questions? I have three more.
Do yours and then we'll do ours. It's okay.
Okay. So I have 3 more, but they're kind of long. So how do you know how, I think I wrote it wrong. How do you know how assesses or calculate of the importance? Okay. So how do you calculate the importance of religion in relation to human needs? So
I'm guessing you're asking if humanist needs were to come against religious needs, who would win?
yeah. Perfect.
Oh.
Okay. I'm thinking about how to answer this properly. Okay. It's unfortunate if the rights of an individual ever clash with the rights of a religious group. However, often when the rights of an individual clash with a religious group, the rights of the individual have other options in seeking recourse or help that would not clash with the religious entity. For example, when a gay couple would like a cake from a Christian baker who would not like to bake their cake because of their religious principles, the gay couple have other bakeries who would be very happy to bake a cake for a gay couple. So the rights of the two groups really shouldn't intertwine. They shouldn't collide. However, the religious couple should have the right to live their religion according to their principles and mandates. If their principles say that they can't participate in a wedding for a gay couple, they should not be forced to break their religious codes and mores for the rights of those individuals. Does that answer your question? Sorry, Karina, did you want to add on that one?
Can I?
Please.
So, yes. And essentially, I think that the rights of both the freedom of exercise of religion and individual rights should both be upheld inasmuch as they do not remove the rights from the other person. There is no constitutional right to have someone be forced to bake a cake for you or be forced to let you be a part of their religious group. There's no right that forces religion to conform to one individual's whimsy. That's not a right. Similarly, a religious party cannot force an individual to do anything. They cannot force them to murder or to steal or to do self-harm. The person has the individual right to leave the religion if they do not agree with its principles. And so, like Jenica said, they should not clash. They don't actually clash unless the individual begins claiming rights that are not actually rights, such as the right to have a cake baked or the right to be allowed to participate in something that is considered sacred when they do not adhere to the sacred decrees outlined by the religious group.
Thank you, Karina. That was perfect.
Did that make sense?
Yes.
So the next question is, how do you discourage or reduce sentimental, unreal hopes and wishful thinking? And sentimental in this sense kind of means emotional. So how do you reduce emotional, unreal hopes and wishful thinking?
Are we talking about in terms of public policy making? I'm trying to understand, like, what everybody has the right to have hopes and dreams and sentimentality, and every single person, whether they're humanist, atheist, Christian, every person has that right. And that right, who we are as people, shapes our world, shapes our countries, and it should shape our nations. So if you want to take those rights away from people, that's really unfair. Every single person has those rights, and then our hopes and our dreams and our beliefs should be what shapes our country. So if we have a country that is based on Christian beliefs and Christian faith, and it becomes a country that has Christian views and is shaped that way, that is the people's right, and it would be wrong to take that right away from people.
Added to that, there are no laws in place which can determine someone's beliefs. So we do nothing to squelch the beliefs of anyone, just their actions.
Perfect. So the last question is, what do you do to go about preventing criticism from racial, religious, ethnic, or class agnosticisms?
You know, I'm going to read to you from Elder Oaks because I thought he said it perfectly, and I'm not going to do better than he did. Give me 1 second to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
This is how he says that members of his religion should conduct themselves, but we believe that all people should conduct themselves this way, but especially people who wave a religious flag. And this is a direct quote. First, we must speak with love, always showing patience, understanding, and compassion towards our adversaries. We are under command to love our neighbor, forgive all men, do good to them who despitefully use us, and conduct our teaching in mildness and meekness. Even as we speak with love, we must not be surprised when our petitions are ridiculed and persecuted and reviled. And modern revelation commands us that we are to not revile against the revilers.
So you prevent racial, religious, ethnic, and class agnosticisms and the bitterness that comes from that by loving everyone.
And showing compassion and patience and understanding. It's our duty as people, whether humanist or religious, to have patience and understanding and be able to recognize that we can all have different viewpoints, but we don't have to show hatred and bigotry and unkindness towards those who have different viewpoints than we do.
I can respect that. So it says, unfortunately, that humanism, it says, we also deplore this and strongly disapprove of any segregation or categorization of outcast groups. So we agree that everyone needs to be loved and show compassion, but we also believe that there shouldn't be outcast groups and that people shouldn't be segregated, because sometimes we believe that religion can segregate or categorize people.
Well, so can humanism. I think it's the human condition. Some people choose to not act that way, and some people choose to act that way. And I don't think it's based on religion or on anything other than based on who we are as people and how we choose to act individually.
That's a good answer. That's the end of my questions, so we can go on to the round 4.
Oh, I have questions.
As well. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. I totally spaced that. Just, yeah.
And do you have questions too, Karina?
I have one or maybe two, depending on whether or not you hit them. How about you do yours first since it's technically your section?
Okay, that's
And
fine.
then if there's a question I have that isn't addressed, then I will ask it.
I don't have quite as many questions as Kaylee. So any ones that you want to add on. First is sorry, in terms of humanism, sorry, just a second. I didn't write this question very well. Okay. When we say that all humans deserve rights, how do we understand which humans deserve rights when rights conflict?
That's a good question. Let me hurry and do a little bit of research. Maddie, if you have anything in the meantime, let me know too.
Sorry, my questions might be hard because I find this whole concept so...
It's a little bit vague, yeah.
And so my questions might be hard for you to answer, and I understand that.
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting because I kind of feel like with some of this, it kind of contradicts itself. Like in
It
one
does.
paragraph, it says that we believe in religious, and then in like another paragraph, it says, well, we believe that's not segregated. So what was your question one more time?
How do we understand which humans deserve rights when rights conflict?
It says that we need to extend the use of the scientific method and not renounce them, or to fuse reason with compassion in order to build a constructive social and moral values. Confronted by many possible futures, we must decide which to pursue. So it kind of depends on the individual, as long as we show compassion in order to build constructive social and moral values. Because we believe that no one should be segregated. And the last part of your question was, how do we define that?
Or just when rights conflict, yeah, how do we understand? I mean, whose compassion are we going to give compassion to?
Yeah. For sure.
And if you need help, I'm happy to help you, even though I'm on the other side. Like.
I'll call a friend. Maddie, do you have any friends?
I have something. So basically, they don't come out and say anything from what I've read about what to do then. But what it does say is, where is it? Okay. So this is in the first manifesto. In the 8th thing they have, it says, religious humanism considers the complete realization of human personality to be the end of man's life and seek its development and fulfillment in the here and now. This is the explanation of the humanist social passion. So from what I get is really there is no one person that's to be put above another. And if it's everyone's ability to fulfill themselves. And basically, I guess if it impedes upon the rights of another, then the other person really has no. I think they've taken the whole term of definition of human rights to a whole nother level. Because basically their version of human rights is saying everyone has the ability to find all sort of fulfillment and explore and find who they really are. And may impede on what traditional people call the human rights, and may inhibit others, but they also have the right to at the same time go and fulfill themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, It's like not clearly defined, but that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
In the 10th section, it says that when it comes up against something like that humane societies should evaluate economic systems not by rhetoric or ideology, but by whether or not they increase economic well-being for all individuals and groups, minimize poverty, hardship, and increase the sum of human satisfaction and quality of life.
So it's based on money. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, my guess would be that that same thing that they address to economic society would apply to any section. So if two rights seem to come against each other, they would look at those rights, measure them, and see what would be best for the whole of society.
Yeah.
For like economic, not only economic growth, but like emotional well-being for the whole unit of society. They would measure it against each other. So essentially, even though they do platoon individual rights, if individuals come up against each other, it's really the right of the societal group as a whole mass of like its own organism.
It's still hard to say, I think. You know,
a
who's
little
to
confusing.
say what's best for society?
Right?
So that's my next
God.
question. I know. This is all very relative. My next question is, how are moral values fused with reason defined? Who fuses reason into moral values, and whose reason are we using, since scientific ideas often conflict with each other?
Stumped.
Something, Kaylee?
What?
You have something?
You know, they don't actually answer some of these questions. It's so relative.
Yeah.
So if there's not an answer, it's okay. We're just supposed to make each other look bad. I mean, like, not you look bad. We're supposed to make humanists look bad. That's what I'm doing.
Well, that would be a good question to ask someone in real life, I feel like. If you did go up against them, I think that's a strong, like, who are you basing it off of if you're not even believing really in science?
Do you guys want to take a shot on that? Because I'm genuinely interested on, the people who wrote this up and really follow this. Where are they coming from on this one? I'm genuinely interested, but if you guys have an answer, you want to crack at that one.
One sec. Maddie, do you have any thoughts while
Basically, I think what they would do is apply the scientific method. Like, that's what they really look for in this, is the use of the scientific method. Because in page 3 it says, humanity to survive requires bold and daring measures. We need to extend the uses of scientific method, not renounce them, to fuse reason with compassion in order to build constructive social and moral values. So basically what I think they're talking about is applying basically moral codes is basically the laws and the rules of today's modern society, and basically using that as their guideline, and protecting the rights of an individual, whereas, like, some people consider themselves gay, like the LGBT groups. They would consider it a moral value to allow them to practice, to have love the way they view love, and feel like if they feel like they're a man trapped in a woman's body, they have the right to change, kind of going along with what is socially accepted as moral values. Because it goes down to say, where I just read it. So it says, a humanist outlook will tap the creativity of each human being and provide the vision and courage for us to work together. The S outlook emphasizes the role human beings can play in their own spheres of actions. So basically, it's what each person views as moral.
Yeah, I think it also can be determined by compassionate. That innate desire that we're born with the to know good from evil, I think they know, like, we each have the distinction between good and evil, and they say that whatever we feel is good and compassionate to everyone and kind of uplifts everyone and stuff, that's the standard that they would go by. So maybe it's that feeling between good and evil.
Okay. I don't like decrees that are so relative because we lose a lot of protection for people in relativity. Okay. Over the history of the world, every society felt like they were very modern, even when their science and thoughts were not congruent with truth. If our own modern society is is the basis for truth and rights, how do we know if we are correct in our thinking? And this is a two-part question. The second question to that is, what if modern society sways to the position where it begins to hinder people?
I personally think that humanists would maybe somewhat then keep their standard of all rights to all people, and they would probably not really go against if the world starts. Well, actually, they might be confused between evil and good, because in the last days, good is supposed to be evil and evil is supposed to be good. So they might sway towards that if they're being very modern.
I think a lot of modern, a lot of things are evil appeal to modern people, and so that's kind of where. Sorry, Karina, did you have something you wanted to say?
My assumption would be that if you sincerely asked someone who was a humanist, they would say, what right do you have to determine what is good and what is evil? Why do you get to decide that for someone else?
I don't feel like I do. I feel like that comes
No,
from God.
I'm just saying that that would be their decree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just answering for them. I'm being the devil's advocate.
No, but if someone were literally to ask me that question, I would literally say, I don't feel like I have the right to decide what is good and evil. For me, it's God, coming from a religious perspective.
Well, I found something interesting. If this could kind of put a whole new spin on it, is where did I just totally read it? Okay, so they say reason and intelligence are the most effective instruments that humankind possesses. Okay, but then it goes on to say, but reason must be tempered by humility, since no group has a monopoly of wisdom or virtue. So it's like, basically we have to be humble enough to realize we're not always right. And so I think that is where they could possibly get confused, but I think also at the same time, they wouldn't just like go with the majority.
I also feel like C.S. Lewis actually explained this super well, because I was reading a book, because one of my husband's brothers and sisters is actually agnostic, so she doesn't believe in right or wrong, and so she actually has asked us before, like, what's the difference between right and wrong, and so she has more of a humanist point of view too. But it's interesting because when we thought about it, we're like, well, how do you decide? But C.S. Lewis actually describes it perfectly in Mere Christianity. He talks about our innate abilities that we are born with, knowing, like, when someone, does something extreme, like commits a sin that's super bad, or murders, or, just any of those things, we know innately that it's bad. But, I mean, I guess some people can be so, like that thing that you mentioned, Maddie, about not being humble, because after you sin so much, you kind of lose the ability to discern what is right and wrong. So I think that's the key point, is being humble about all of it.
I think it's difficult, like as a society, there's a lot of things that we used to think were wrong that we no longer think are wrong, and even some amounts of theft are okay by society. And I was reading an article in the New York Times, and this guy knew his friend was having an affair, and he was friends with both people in the couple, and he's like, do I tell them? And everyone's like, oh no, the affair is not really that bad, and and so when it comes to moral relativity based on modern society, we're no longer always protecting people because it depends on how society thinks, and often our thoughts can be evil and not for the protection of people, but based on everyone should be able to do whatever they want. Well, when everyone does whatever they want, we start to hurt people. So, if it's relative, when we start to slip to the wrong side, where we're not helping people anymore, how can we say that we're actually helping people? If it's relative, we're going to start sliding one way or another, and it might be to society's detriment. Okay, my last question. I've read the manifesto. I understand the humanist. The point of this is just to prove or disprove humanist versus Christianity. Many religions contribute much to the health and benefit and well-being of its members, as well as society. This is scientifically proven. How can you say that religions provide nothing and hinder people? Because there was something that you read, Maddie, that said something along those lines, but I didn't get the exact quote when you read it.
It says, traditional religions often offer solace to humans, but as often they inhibit humans from helping themselves or experiencing their full potentialities.
Yeah, and there was another quote too that talked about how humanism helps people but religions don't. But there have been scientific studies that show it contribute to the health, benefit, and well-being in terms of wealth and stability of its members and society.
But then they come back and say, one second, let me get back to it. Oh, I passed it. It says, we find insufficient evidence for belief in the existence of a supernatural is either meaningless or irrelevant to the question of survival and fulfillment of the human race. So yeah.
Essentially the placebo effect.
Yes.
Who cares? I mean, if it's contributing to society and to its members, placebo or not, who cares? We can't say, or how can you say, that religion is virtually worthless or harmful when we know it contributes?
But how do we know it contributes and not the placebo effect?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a placebo effect or not for this question. It's contributing. There are studies that can show it contributes. So how can we say it's not contributing?
You know what's interesting is that there's actually research out there. This is kind of, I guess, devil advocate side too. There's actually research out there that says that the only reason why religion is actually powerful is because of the social groups of it. And so some atheists are actually picking up on this because they realize the importance of being social with people. Like, they actually did research just a couple months ago saying that if you're not social with people at least once a day, you'll actually knock off 5 years of your life. And it's as much as taking, I can't remember how many cigarettes a day, 15 cigarettes a day, that's what it was, 15, if you don't socialize. It's new research. So they actually were saying that religion, the reason why it's successful is because of the social groups that is set up. And so actually atheists are now trying to set up ways that people can come together and be social, and they kind of feel like it's more when you communicate with people more and have deeper connections and friendships. That's actually the proven studies. And so I don't know if they've actually have studied the spiritual side or if they can study the spiritual side of it. Maybe it would be the whole happiness question, because each person perceives happiness in their own way. Maybe that would be the point. Like, how happy are you with religion, without religion? Does that make sense?
That's a good answer. Karina, did you have your questions?
So my question was, sorry, here it is. So in the, I almost said the Communist Manifesto, same thing. Your Humanist Manifesto. It said, people are more important than rules, prescriptions, or regulations. Does this mean that your manifesto is proposing anarchy?
No.
Maddie,
I found a perfect answer to that. I'm looking at it right now.
That's awesome. Bring it.
Okay, so in the second manifesto, if you go down to page 5, there's a section called Democratic Society.
Got it.
This is the 7th. It says, so basically, they do not believe in going outside of the laws or civil liberties in any society. So they feel like, it says, to enhance freedom and dignity, the individual must experience a full range of civil liberties in all societies. So, like, they go into include, like, be able to have freedom of speech, press, and all, like, the amendments to the Bill of Rights. It says, and also goes on to say, it also includes recognition of an individual's rights to die with dignity and everything. It says, we oppose the increasing invasion of privacy. We are committed to an open and democratic society. We must extend participatory democracy in its true sense to the economy, the school, the family, the workplace, and voluntary associations. So they are committed to a democratic society, not anarchy. They believe in following the Bill of Rights, and the rights of man, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is what it says.
That was a good question, though, Karina. There's a lot of places where this manifesto is kind of contradictory. We believe this, but not this. Like, we do, but we don't. Yes, no.
It's like they're nicely trying to say religion is bunk.
Yeah, they are. Or at least that's what I get out of it.
Yeah.
I think we believe that the purpose of government, like, if we're looking for the similarities between the two, I think both believe, like, we, as members of the church, would prefer that our religious freedoms, the purpose of the government would be to protect those. Not to infringe upon them, not to tell us how to do things, but its sole purpose is to protect the freedoms which we have. So the question is what, like kind of what you were saying, what happens when an individual claims that their freedom is being infringed upon, and then how do you determine who is right? And that's where it becomes dangerous. That's where this manifesto becomes tricky.
Yeah. I think the only time that the individual right should go above the right of a religion is if the religion is trying to force an individual to do something, taking away their inherent right. For example, a cult is trying to force a person to stay in the cult, or that's the only time when the religion is trying to take away the rights of a person by force and coercion.
And that's something that right now is already punishable by law. You cannot coerce another human being to do something.
But that's the only
regardless of why you're saying you're doing it.
That's the only time that religious rights should come secondary to the rights of the individual. But in terms of someone saying they should have the right to have a cake or the right to, those aren't rights.
Right.
And they shouldn't come
The right
first.
to keep someone in your religion is not actually a right. So in both instances, the problem is claiming a right that is not actually yours.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
that's really
exactly.
where the problem is.
And we need to clarify that rather than fight about how we deserve things that we don't. Like, we're living in such an entitled world. I am entitled for you to do this for me. No,
Bake
you're
me
not.
a cake.
You're not entitled. Get over yourself. Go find another baker. You know, if you were to tell another baker, oh my gosh, they wouldn't bake it for me because I'm gay, the other baker would probably be like, I'll do it for free because those jerks. I mean, go find another baker. Like, seriously.
Right?
Yeah, it's so true. Because then it infringes on everyone's agency.
Like,
Yeah.
what if I wanted to go to, I don't know, like an atheist group meeting and I wanted to be able to speak on what I would like to speak on, which is God, at their group meeting. That's their group meeting. I don't have a right to be there. I don't have a right to go into their places that they've designated and say what my beliefs are and how they trump theirs. Similarly, they don't have the right to overcome religious ones or come into temples and be sealed when they haven't done the things they need to.
Not even all of our members have that right. It's
Right.
not a right.
It's not a right.
It's not a right.
Should we do our closing remarks?
Yeah, let's do our closing remarks. Is that Maddie? Maddie, your microphone's off, just so you know.
Okay. So
my two friends still. Cool.
this is like the wrapping up section, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, go Maddie.
Okay, so human beings have the right to the pursuit of happiness. Much of what provides happiness may not always be in line of religious beliefs. Religion is what holds us back sometimes from being happy. It keeps us from reaching upwards and outwards. We must be allowed to push the limits of our knowledge, to explore and experiment to find out who we are as an individual using the scientific method, to use our own intelligence and reason, tempered with humility, to guide us and help us distinguish what is best and true. Religion keeps us from finding out what other truth is out there due to the belief that truth should come from God in revelation. There is no evidence that suggests religion is key in order to survive and be happy in this life. We seek independence rather than being bound to dependence, being able to help ourselves, to take control of our lives and actions, to stand up and take responsibility for life rather than blaming God for all the hard and terrible things in life and in the world today. That's all I've got right now.
Okay. So, for the religion aside, in closing, we wish to remind you that our country was founded by those fleeing oppression. They were seeking religious freedom. As our founding fathers drafted the Constitution, they relied heavily upon their faith in God, and included in the document decrees to protect our religious freedoms, whatever they may be. The freedom to exercise religion has been hard-won and deserves special protections. Removal of these protections will adversely affect individuals, families, and civilized society as a whole. The humanist viewpoint desires that all mankind be able to seek fulfillment of self and achieve their highest potential. For those of us who are religious, the free exercise of our faith is a large part of achieving that progress and fulfillment, both for ourselves and for our families. We desire simply that our viewpoints be given the same respect and democratic process as any other.
Okay, so is it my turn to wrap it up too? Or are you guys?
No, I think that's it. We just present our sides and then wrap it up.
Yeah, no, Maddie did hers and Karina did hers, so the closing arguments are done, and now we have two questions we have to answer. Question one, do you think the author of your article or authors of the articles were taking a moral high ground or making a moral statement? Why or why not? Wasn't that the point of them? To make a moral statement?
I was going to say, yeah, I feel like the humanist manifestos are just making a moral statement. They're not taking a moral high ground, because it's basically, this is why humanist is better, because it allows us to do this. It's not really taking a certain high ground, because it doesn't say, oh, we're the best because. They're just saying, this is why we believe in humanism.
And what humanism is, for people who
Yes.
don't understand. Yeah.
I still don't even fully understand.
Yeah. I don't think Elder Oaks was trying to say this is why we're best. I think he was saying this is why this happened. This is why this is important, and this is why the derailing of these rights is detrimental to all of society.
Yeah. I feel like his was talking about more that we also have a right to the political process,
Yes.
and that we need to stand up for what we think is right, even though there will probably be persecution. There should not be, because we have a right to free speech too, but to have courage even in the face of that, because removal of those protections of the rights of free exercise of religion will be extremely detrimental. But he didn't say anyone else was bad or
Wrong.
or it was just like, no, we deserve protection too. Let us in.
Yeah.
So
I like that Elder Oaks also said, in order for us to get these rights, this is how we need to act. Like, this is how we need to be as humans to deserve these rights or whatever.
right.
And so I felt like that way, especially, he's not saying you're well, he is kind of saying you're entitled to these rights as being religious, but he's saying you need to act accordingly.
Right.
Second question: are religious folks the only ones with values and morals? Can morality exist without religion? Why or why not? I think that lots of people believe in morality and would like to see their own version of morality. My concern is when we don't have a higher source telling us, giving us light and direction, it becomes so gray that we soon stop protecting people and we lose a lot of morality if we don't have a higher source giving us light and direction.
I would agree with that. I think, in essence, true morality cannot exist without the true direction of God. Now, that doesn't mean, that means real truth from God equals real morality. Because for one group, such as the humanist viewpoint, their idea of something that's moral, in the debate of abortion, for example, it would be immoral, in their opinion, for someone to force a woman to have a child, overtake her body when she does not desire the child to be there. That would be immoral. Because we understand the truth of God, we know what reality is, and that child is also a human with rights and deserves protection, and that we are all here on earth for a certain purpose, and that getting rid of that child would harm both the mother and the infant. Whereas without, like Jenica said, without that direction of God, even though you may have values and things that are important to you, you can just be swept around by changes of doctrine and whimsy.
Yeah, whatever's popular.
Yeah, and that's kind of what my concluding remarks were too. Are religious folks the only ones with values and morals? No, but people are more swayed because some people want to be justified for their actions, and I think that's where the point of humility comes in that we were talking about earlier. You have to have humility in order to know that some of the things that you're doing are wrong, and you can't be justified in those things, and we do make mistakes and sins, and a lot of our points may be not in line with a greater power who has a greater purpose for us and a greater plan. And so that's where it requires the humility. So morality can exist with religion, but it won't be able to last too long because they don't have a foundation. That's my remarks.
Which is a really good point if you're from the humanist perspective. That really is like their decree is what, like, both of us believe in a higher power, but the humanist viewpoint is that the higher power is human intelligence and lies within like the human intelligence of those controlling society, whereas religionist viewpoint, we believe in the higher power of God.
I think that's perfect. Should we just go from there?
Yeah, no, I think that was a perfect summary to our whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think we're good.
So then, did you just want to like copy and paste this? Or
Yeah,
I
I'll
guess
copy and paste the link under, was it Kylie? Was it you that put the Google Doc link? So I'll just post it under that.
yeah, Kaylee posted that.
Yeah, and then, sorry, I know you're not Kylie, I just know a lot of Kylies. It was just in my head. And then sorry, Dave, and just let me, just 1 second. When it says for the cross-examination, do you want, like, I can just write my questions and you guys can write in the answers, like 1 or 2 sentences, or do you want me to write your answers to my questions? How do you guys want to do that?
Yeah, what do you guys want to do?
Maybe,
like, I personally think it would be easier if I answer your questions in 1 or 2 sentences and you answer mine, but if you guys think it's easier if I answer what you guys told me, that's fine too.
We'll go with the first one, I think.
What do you think, Karina?
Sorry.
yeah. I didn't even think about having to write that part down.
Yeah, or we could just maybe just write the questions that we asked each other, and then maybe we could have the teacher go back and look at them. Should we just do that too?
There you go. You could write down the questions and then, like, for answers, put, like, in parentheses, see Google Hangout on air.
Yeah, like
That's
this.
a better way to do it. Let's
Because,
simplify
like,
it.
so many people came in and, like backed
that's
each
what I
other up, and
like-
I switched sides, and
I was
just trying to help
thinking
the
answers. I'm like,
debate.
I'm not quite sure where to start on these, and okay, that's what I'll do. That makes more sense.
okay. So let's
Okay, I'll add my answers in right now too if you want. And then I'm just thinking we could do just bullet points for the humanist side and religious side for the other Christians, just like small bullet points.